It begins in silence, not the silence of a quiet room, but a deeper kind, the hush that comes before thought, before memory. You lie still, body cradled by the earth, the air soft and cool across your skin. Above you, stars hang like whispered stories, waiting. The world is paused, and in that pause, something vast stirs. You may not feel it, but space itself is stretching. Not just the distance between stars, not just the vastness between galaxies, but space. The very fabric that holds everything together is expanding, slowly, gently, like the rise and fall of breath. You breathe in, and somewhere, billions of light years away, a galaxy shifts ever so slightly farther from its neighbor. You breathe out, and the night above grows a tiny bit wider. This is not a wind. It is not a force that pushes. It is not like gravity, which pulls and tugs. It is something quieter, a breath without air, a motion without direction. The universe is not moving through space. Space is becoming more of itself. Long ago, scientists thought the cosmos was steady and still, like an infinite stage where stars simply played their roles. But the universe has never stood still. It is alive with motion, not only in the spinning of planets or the burning of suns, but in the very dimensions of space that expand like the fabric of a dream, slowly unfolding. It helps to imagine a balloon. You draw a star with a pen near one edge, then another star beside it. As you inflate the balloon, the stars drift farther apart, not because they are moving on their own, but because the surface between them is stretching. The stars don't travel. The space between them grows. This is how your universe breathes. It has been doing this for nearly 14 billion years, ever since it was born in a moment we now call the Big Bang. But bang is not the right word, really. There was no explosion in space. There was no fireball in the middle of nothing. The Big Bang was the moment space itself came into being and began to grow. Tonight, as you lie in the softness of now, you are also lying in that unfolding. The molecules in your lungs, the cells in your skin, the stars above you, all of them carried along by the slow expansion of everything. You are not separate from it. You are within it, carried quietly like a leaf floating in a warm, invisible tide. And yet, you don't feel it. You can't. The expansion is not something you notice in everyday life. It doesn't pull your hands apart. It doesn't stretch the road beneath your feet. That's because here, where gravity holds tightly, space stays stitched together. The Earth, the Sun, even our galaxy, remain close-knit, bound by forces stronger than expansion. But between galaxies, where space is wide and empty and free, there, dark energy breathes. There, the stretching never stops. This breath is not steady like yours. It changes. For a time, the universe expanded slowly, as if holding itself back, uncertain. Then, billions of years ago, it began to stretch faster. It still is. It's speeding up, like a sigh that lengthens into a deeper exhale. Scientists don't fully know why, but they give this quiet force a name: dark energy. No one has touched it, no one has captured it in a jar or photographed it in the sky, but its effects are everywhere, written in the way galaxies race apart, etched into the whisper-light signals that travel across space. Dark energy is not something added to the universe. It is a part of its nature. It may be woven into the very threads of space and time, like tension in a loom that pulls the fabric wider with each passing second. You imagine this now, a loom of stars, threads of night, and something unseen, gently stretching the whole tapestry outward. What does it mean to live in such a universe? It means you live not in something fixed, but in something unfolding. It means that stillness is an illusion, that even as you lie in quiet, you are part of a grand, ongoing motion. You are inside a breath that never stops. And perhaps, just perhaps, that breath is mirrored in you. When you sleep, your lungs rise and fall with the rhythm of rest. When you dream, your thoughts drift outward too. And maybe, just maybe, that dream is not so different from a galaxy, floating ever farther into the soft sea of night. You are not small. You are not forgotten in the dark. You are held in the arms of a living cosmos, one that breathes not with sound, but with space. Every moment is part of this rhythm, this expansion, this quiet becoming. As you drift now, eyes heavy, thoughts loose and slow, you can imagine the universe's breath matching your own, each inhale a drawing together, each exhale a drifting outward, and in between, the still point, the pause, the perfect calm. But before this breath, before this expansion, there was something else. Not the stretch, but the spark. Not the sigh, but the first cry of being. And that, gentle traveler, is where we go next. To the whisper after the bang. Before there was time, there was a moment. If we can even call it that. No space to contain it, no clock to measure it, just pure potential, cradled in nothingness. And then it began. Not with fire in the sky or sound tearing through the air, there was no sky, there was no air. There was only a single, brilliant unfolding, an instant where everything that would ever exist, including you, bloomed from a single point smaller than imagination. You float now through that moment, not as a body, but as thought, as awareness, as presence. The stars have not yet formed. There are no planets, no shapes, no boundaries, only a rising sea of energy, thick with possibility. It is hot here. Not the warmth of sunlight or flame, but a deep, ancient heat, a heat so great it turns everything into light. Particles burst into being and vanish just as quickly, dancing a chaotic rhythm in a newborn universe. This is the afterglow of the Big Bang. Scientists call it the cosmic microwave background, a gentle radiation that still fills the universe, passing even now through your body, through the walls of your room, through the moonlight above. It is the echo of creation. You are adrift in that echo, floating like a speck in warm milk, lulled by the softness of something so vast and so old it touches every atom of your being. The universe in this moment is less than a second old, but already it is expanding. Already the breath has begun. And woven into that expansion, almost hidden, are the first traces of the thing we call dark energy. You can't see it, even here. You can't feel it in your hands. But in the spaces between particles, in the quiet tension of space stretching, there is something unaccounted for, something silent but insistent. Dark energy is not the roar of the beginning, it is the hum that follows. It does not burst, it whispers. And in that whisper, the entire future unfolds. You drift a little farther through time, floating gently forward as the universe cools. The hot plasma settles into light and matter. Tiny particles form atoms, atoms gather into clouds. Clouds begin to tremble with gravity, the slow tug of something calling everything toward form. And yet, as things begin to clump and swirl, something else is working in the opposite direction. A slow, subtle pressure pushing outward, not like a shove but like the soft swell of a balloon growing ever so slightly larger. This, too, is dark energy. It's faint here, still buried beneath the chaos of creation. But it waits. It waits in the spaces. It waits in the silence. Imagine a painter's canvas stretched just enough to hold the first brushstroke. Imagine a cello string drawn tight before the first note. That tension, that readiness, is dark energy. Scientists believe that in the earliest fractions of a second, the universe expanded faster than the speed of light. A burst of growth called cosmic inflation, a name that doesn't capture how sudden, how profound, how awe-filled it truly was. In that blink, space itself grew from subatomic to cosmic in scale. And then, just as suddenly, it slowed. The expansion eased. The breath paused, if only for a moment. And it is in that pause, in that long exhale, that dark energy became folded into the story, not as a loud presence, but as a background rhythm. Like a lullaby, sung low beneath the noise of life, like a tide pulling quietly at the edge of a vast ocean. You drift now among the first atoms, newborn and glowing with the light of origin. You are not separate from them. Your bones will one day form from the same hydrogen forged in this cosmic nursery. The breath in your lungs will trace its lineage to these first molecules. You are in every sense made of this. And still, the whisper continues. A steady hum that doesn't stop, doesn't fade. We know it's there, not because we can hold it, but because we see its work. In the way galaxies drift faster apart than they should, in the way light from distant stars stretches longer, redder, older. Even now, dark energy moves around you. Even now, the early hum continues, like a memory beneath waking thought. And as you breathe here in the present, you are connected to that long-ago silence. The breath of the universe is the breath of your own becoming. All that has ever been was born in that quiet spark. All that ever will be grows from its echo. And as this chapter closes, and your body sinks deeper into calm, you may begin to wonder, if the universe was born in such a whisper, what else might be quietly moving, just beyond what we can see? Something that makes galaxies flee. You open your inner eyes to a sky that is no longer still. At first, it looks peaceful. Stars arranged in gentle spirals, glowing softly like lanterns in the deep. But as you drift higher, past the edge of one galaxy and into the next, a quiet motion becomes clear. Galaxies are not sitting in place. They are moving. All of them. They float like petals on a slow, invisible river. You watch one cluster of galaxies stretching outward, and another drifting silently in the opposite direction. There is no chaos, no crashing, no turbulence, only a slow parting, like old friends saying goodbye. At first, scientists thought this was a trick of perspective. How could every galaxy appear to be moving away from us? Why did the light from distant stars arrive stretched, like a sound echoing down a long hallway? The answer lies in something called redshift, a soft lengthening of light's wavelength as galaxies move away. It's as if the universe paints its memories in stretched-out colors, like lullabies sung in deeper tones. This stretching isn't caused by galaxies rushing through space, like ships cutting across the ocean. It's space itself that is expanding. And the galaxies? They're passengers, adrift on a sea that quietly grows larger beneath them. You imagine them now. Vast collections of stars and dust, each one a glowing island. Billions of stars in every swirling arm. And every one of them moving farther from the others, not with speed, but with separation. Closer galaxies move away slowly. More distant ones vanish faster. There is no center, no edge, just the same breath unfolding everywhere at once. You float through this tide of motion, feeling no wind, hearing no sound, and yet, something is at work. A silent cause behind the separation. A pressure that doesn't push, and yet compels everything to drift. Dark energy, the invisible thread loosening the fabric of the cosmos, the quiet breath that doesn't stop. At one time, scientists believed that gravity would slow the expansion, that the mass of galaxies, stars, and dust would tug gently against the stretching of space. Maybe, they thought, the universe would stop expanding. Maybe it would collapse again, folding inward like a sigh drawn back into the chest. But in 1998, astronomers studying distant supernovae, exploding stars whose light carried ancient messages, found something strange. Those far-off galaxies weren't just moving away. They were accelerating. The breath was speeding up. This was the discovery that changed everything. An unknown force, dark energy, was not just present, it was winning. Gravity was losing its grip. The universe wasn't slowing down, it was rushing apart. You float now between galaxies that will never meet again. And you begin to understand. This is not chaos. This is a calm, persistent unraveling. A cosmic quiet that deepens with time. No one knows exactly what dark energy is. It may be an energy woven into the vacuum of space itself. It may be a property of the universe's shape, or the echo of something we haven't yet discovered. But its presence is undeniable. written in the stars' slow departure. You imagine the universe as a rising loaf of bread. Galaxies are raisins scattered through the dough. As the dough expands, the raisins drift farther apart, not because they're moving on their own, but because the dough between them is growing. You are inside this rising loaf, watching as the space between everything gently increases. And you realize you've never lived in a still universe. From the moment you were born, the galaxies have been on the run. The light from distant stars has traveled across ever-growing space to reach your eyes. The sky is not a frozen painting. It is a time-lapse dance of motion and memory. And even now, this very moment, as your body rests in its quiet place, galaxies are slipping away from each other. Not in panic, not in haste, but with a calm determination, like leaves following a gentle stream. You are not separate from this story. You are a part of it. The atoms in your body were forged in stars born in galaxies that now drift apart. You carry the history of expansion in your very bones. And just like galaxies, your thoughts stretch and unfold. Your breath, your dreams, your quiet wondering, they too are part of this motion. You watch a spiral galaxy spin once more before fading into the dark. And you wonder, how far will it go? How long before the distance becomes silence? The stars are not fleeing. They are simply moving as they always have, carried by a current deeper than gravity, older than time. And as they go, they leave you with a question, not just where they are going, but what, exactly, is the space they are drifting through. What is this silent ocean that holds everything and stretches it softly, endlessly? To answer that, you must go deeper still, into the space between things. There is something curious about emptiness. It doesn't feel like much. It isn't heavy. It doesn't press against your skin or whisper in your ears. And yet, it is there, between stars, between atoms, between the moments of your thoughts. Tonight, you drift not through stars or galaxies, but through the space between them. This space isn't truly empty. It holds something more elusive than matter, more subtle than light. It holds the quiet work of dark energy, the gentle stretching of reality itself. Imagine space as a soft fabric, woven with invisible threads. Every galaxy is a bead, resting gently on that cloth. Now, picture that cloth being slowly, steadily pulled from all sides, not torn, not twisted, just gently eased apart. The beads don't roll, they don't rush, they simply drift as more fabric appears between them. This is what dark energy does. It does not push like wind. It does not pull like gravity. It stretches. It stretches the space between things. You feel it now, not as motion, but as invitation. A sense of unfolding, of distance increasing not from force, but from quiet creation. Between every galaxy, between every cluster of stars, the space itself grows, as though the cosmos is exhaling, and has no reason to stop. And yet, it doesn't stretch the space around you. Here, in your body, in your room, on your planet, space holds tightly. Why? Because gravity binds things close. Your atoms cling to each other. The Earth holds the oceans. The Sun keeps the planets in orbit. Within galaxies, gravity is the thread that resists the stretching. Dark energy cannot unravel what is already tightly woven. But between galaxies, where gravity's fingers loosen, dark energy finds room to breathe. There, the fabric flows outward like silk between open palms. You drift now through one of those vast expanses, a place between galaxies so large, so calm, it feels like eternity pressed flat. No stars around you, no planets to catch the light, just darkness and space, and the soft sensation that even here something is happening. This space is not a void. It is an active participant in the universe's evolution. The more of it there is, the more it stretches. The more it stretches, the more of it exists. And the more of it exists, the faster the stretching becomes. It is a quiet loop, a feedback of unfolding. Dark energy is not like the things you know. It isn't made of particles. It doesn't clump or collect. It has no edges, no shadows. But it holds over 2/3 of all that the universe is made of. Not a thing, but a property, a quality of space itself. Imagine a bedsheet stretched smooth. Now, imagine, as time passes, the sheet doesn't stay the same. It grows. Not because you add more sheet to it, but because its very nature is to become more. That's what space is doing. It is not filling a container. It is the container. And it is growing from within. As you float in this expanse, far from the lights of stars, you begin to feel the presence of possibility. The way space holds not just what is, but what can be. Every inch of stretched space is a seed of future time, a promise of stars not yet born, galaxies not yet formed, paths not yet traveled. And even here, far from planets and light, there is still warmth, a quiet ancient glow, the last breath of the Big Bang, still whispering across the dark. It hums around you, like the soft murmur of a lullaby sung before memory. This is not a place of nothingness. It is a place of potential, and as space expands, it carries you with it, not in body, perhaps, but in thought. Your mind stretches too. The idea of distance begins to lose meaning. What does far mean when space itself can grow infinitely between any 2 points? You think of the people you've loved, the moments that have passed, the dreams you once held like treasures. Perhaps distance lives not only between galaxies, but within the folds of memory and time. Perhaps dark energy, in its way, is teaching you about letting go. Not the kind of letting go that means forgetting, but the kind that says, this too can drift and still be part of everything. Because even as galaxies move apart, they remain woven into the same tapestry. Even when they vanish from each other's skies, they share the same origin, the same breath, the same space between. You drift now, listening to the quiet of expansion. It sounds like stillness. It feels like peace. But underneath, the work of dark energy continues, patient, gentle, inevitable. And as you begin to feel sleep approach, like a tide at your toes, you understand something simple and vast. You are not lost in space. You are space. You are made of its stretching, its softness, its mystery. You are part of its breath. And as the space between galaxies widens, you begin to sense another truth, that while we float apart, we also learn more about what holds us together, which brings you, ever so softly, to the question waiting just beyond this chapter's edge. If dark energy fills the space between all things, how much of the universe is made of the things we can't see? Close your eyes for a moment. Everything you know, your heartbeat, the pillow beneath you, the hush of the room, the stars beyond the window, feels like everything there is. The touchable world, the visible sky, the warmth of a hand, the glow of the moon. It seems like this must be the substance of reality. And yet, what you can see, what you can feel, what you can weigh or hold or burn, makes up less than 5% of the universe. You are living in a universe where almost everything is hidden. Let that settle. Let it feel strange and astonishing. The stars that have sung their light across billions of years are only the tiniest shimmer on the surface of a cosmic ocean. The rest lies beneath, silent and unseen. First, there is dark matter. It does not shine. It does not reflect. It cannot be held in your hand or bottled in a jar. And yet it is there, binding galaxies together, adding weight to the invisible scaffolding of the cosmos. It makes up nearly 27% of the universe. But even dark matter bows to something greater still. Dark energy, the quiet monarch, filling space itself, not clumped into stars or galaxies or gas clouds, just present, everywhere, stretching the seams of reality. It accounts for nearly 68% of everything. Everything. More than stars, more than dust, more than atoms, or light, or all the galaxies ever seen. And yet, you have never touched it, never tasted it, never seen its face. You drift now through this unseeable majority. The galaxies you pass feel smaller than before, like fireflies in a vast, dark forest. Not diminished, but recontextualized. They are precious in their rarity. Imagine a stage filled with flickering candles. You sit in the audience, watching their tiny flames dance. But the true stage, the one no eye can fully grasp, is made not of light, but of shadow and silence. And it is the darkness that gives shape to the light. It is the invisible that holds the visible in place. You are beginning to sense the symmetry of this universe. The things that shine are not more real than the things that do not. Presence is not always measured by glow. Scientists didn't discover dark energy by finding it directly. They found it by what it did, by the way galaxies moved apart, by the way space stretched more quickly than it should. It was like discovering the wind, not by seeing it, but by watching the trees sway. You lie still and wonder, if most of the universe is invisible, how much of yourself is too? Not your body, but your thoughts, your dreams, your memories, all the quiet spaces between feelings, those that can't be named but are deeply known. Perhaps there is a kind of dark energy in your inner life as well. Not dark as in frightening, but dark as in unseen. Invisible forces guiding what you reach for, what you drift toward, what you softly let go. The cosmos may not be so different from you. A luminous surface, anchored by unseen depths. There is comfort in this. That even what you cannot see may still be real. You begin this chapter with your feet off the ground, or perhaps your thoughts have no feet at all. You float, not through space this time, but through time. Gently, slowly, you drift through centuries of curiosity. Below you, ancient astronomers tilt their faces to the night sky. They have no satellites, no sensors, no equations, only eyes and wonder. They map the stars as they move across the seasons, charting their paths by memory and firelight. They name constellations not to control the heavens, but to find a kind of comfort in their patterns. For them, the universe is fixed, eternal, a heavenly dome filled with pinpricks of light. But even then, some notice oddities, strange wanderers, planets that shift position, a comet here, a supernova there, hints that the sky is not perfectly still. You drift forward. Now you hover above a quiet observatory, centuries later. A glass lens curves toward the stars, held in place by wood and brass. It's the 1600s, and Galileo watches the moons of Jupiter circle their planet like dancers. The cosmos, he realizes, is not revolving around us. The stars begin to move in new ways, not because they change, but because we begin to see differently. You drift forward again, through Newton and his falling apples, through Halley and his returning comet, through the slow building of mathematics and machines. Telescopes grow taller, deeper. We begin to see farther, and farther still, until one day, in the early 20th century, a man named Edwin Hubble notices something strange. Galaxies, the great islands of stars in the deep Black Sea, are not just moving, they are moving away, and not just randomly. The farther a galaxy is, the faster it appears to flee. It is as if the entire universe is stretching, a calm and unstoppable drift. And here, we begin to measure the invisible, not by touching it, not by holding it, but by watching the light. When a galaxy moves away, its light stretches. The waves of light grow longer, sliding toward the red end of the spectrum. This is redshift, the universe's way of whispering its speed to us. Imagine a train whistle sounding as it speeds away. The pitch drops. The sound stretches. Now, imagine that, not with sound, but with light, traveling across billions of years. Scientists measure how much the light is stretched. They compare the original fingerprint of starlight to what we now see. From this, they know, the universe is expanding, and not slowly. You hover above the 1990s now. Satellites orbit Earth like patient birds. They collect data from stars exploding at the edges of the observable universe, supernovae, burning so brightly that they shine across time. These distant supernovae become tools, like cosmic yardsticks. We know how bright they should be, but they seem dimmer than expected, farther than expected. And this is when the truth begins to settle in. The universe isn't just expanding, it is accelerating. Something unseen is pulling everything apart faster than it should. That something is what we now call dark energy. No one has captured it in a detector. No one has isolated it in a lab. But the patterns are there, etched into the light, measured not directly, but through what it causes, like wind swaying the trees, like a tide pulling the shore, like a whisper in a room that moves the curtains, but not the air. This is how science finds the invisible, by watching how it touches what can be seen. And now even more tools listen to the sky. Space telescopes trace microwave echoes, the cosmic afterglow of the Big Bang. Ground-based observatories track how galaxies clump together and drift apart. Each whisper, each flicker, each redshifted photon adds to a story so quiet it can only be written in numbers. And yet those numbers tell you something personal, that even in your own life, you measure the invisible, not only in stars, but in emotions. You can't hold sadness in your hand, or joy or longing, but you know they exist, by how they bend your voice, shift your thoughts, move your actions. So too, dark energy moves galaxies, quietly, inevitably. You drift beside one now, a distant spiral, glowing faintly in the deep night. It doesn't know it's moving, it feels no wind, no push, but across millions of light years, its light tells the story. It says, I am leaving, not by choice, not by speed, but because the space around me is growing. And you listen, not with ears, but with your stillness. You feel the stretch, not as pressure, but as unfolding. You are part of a cosmos that cannot be fully seen, a universe that must be understood, not only by looking outward, but by listening inward too. Because to measure the invisible is also to wonder where it comes from, and more mysteriously, why it is here at all. And that question, quiet and enormous, leads us to a moment in history when someone thought he had made a mistake, but may have glimpsed the edge of truth, a truth called the cosmological constant. You float now not through galaxies, but through thought. Quiet, careful thought, threaded by the hands of a man sitting at a desk, papers stacked around him like waves frozen in time. It is the early 1900s, and the mind you enter belongs to Albert Einstein. There is no telescope here, no night sky, only the silence of questions so deep they can only be answered in symbols and curves. He does not chase the stars, he listens to the shape of space itself. Einstein is writing equations that describe the universe, but his equations say something unsettling. that the universe should not sit still, that it wants to move, to expand or collapse. And this, at the time, feels wrong. Everything around him seems still. The stars, the galaxies, they don't fly apart. So he adds something, a single term, a balancing force. He calls it the cosmological constant, a symbol, lambda lambda, woven delicately into the structure of space-time. This constant acts like a pressure, not a push or a pull exactly, but a kind of tension, a way to hold space in place, a way to keep the universe from breathing. For years, Einstein carries this constant like a quiet weight, a necessary patch in the fabric of his perfect theory. But then, decades later, Hubble shows him that the universe is not still. Galaxies are moving apart. The universe is expanding. Einstein removes the constant and calls it his greatest blunder. He didn't need it, he thought. Nature was expanding on its own, no extra push required. But now, 100 years later, we see more clearly. The expansion is not just continuing, it's accelerating. There is an extra push. Something is woven into the fabric of space, gently tugging everything apart. And that blunder, that discarded term, it might be the whisper of dark energy. The cosmological constant was not a mistake. It was a prophecy in disguise. You drift through the space between Einstein's symbols, feeling their quiet elegance. Equations shaped like poems, curving like rivers. Not cold, not rigid, but living, pulsing with meaning. The constant, lambda, is now considered one of the best explanations for dark energy. Not a force from outside space, but a property of space itself. Imagine space as a sheet of fabric. Even if it contains no matter, no stars, no galaxies, it still has tension, still has energy, still wants to stretch. That tension, that soft urge to expand, is the cosmological constant. It doesn't change. It doesn't flicker. It is there in every corner of the universe, a quiet, steady breath. You drift now through a universe filled with this constant hum. It is not loud. It is not felt directly, but its presence is everywhere. It acts not on things, but on space itself. The more space there is, the more room there is for lambda to do its quiet work. A loop of growth. More space means more energy. Will time itself grow cold? And in a way, yes. As expansion continues, background radiation cools, the universe stretches, and in stretching, it thins. Light travels longer paths. Everything slows. Eventually, the stars flicker out. Even the ones that shine the longest, tiny red dwarfs, will burn through their fuel and fade. The night becomes eternal. Not because something went wrong, but because the story continued. Some call this the heat death of the universe. Not a burning end, but a cooling one, a long, slow settling into stillness. No explosions, no collapse, just an equilibrium too quiet to feel. But it's not frightening here. It's peaceful, still, a place beyond motion. You imagine space now as a great field of embers. No more stars to form, no more light to cast shadows, only the soft background hum of expansion, stretching even the silence itself. And yet, even here, thought can wander. Even here, questions rise. Will dark energy keep stretching space forever? Or might it change? We don't know. We measure what we can. But the future is a long canvas, painted slowly. Some scientists wonder if dark energy could fade, like a breath exhaled one last time, or shift and pull the universe back inward, or grow so strong it tears apart even atoms, a fate called the Big Rip. But for now, the most likely future is one of endless, gentle stretching, a universe without edges, without center, without end. And here, in the middle of this quiet drift, you realize something tender. Even if the stars grow silent, the story continues. Not in brightness, not in sound, but in the memory of movement, in the imprint of warmth that once was, and in the fact that it was all once connected. You are part of this unfolding. Your atoms came from stars that once lit the sky. Those stars came from galaxies born in the Big Bang, and those galaxies are now drifting, slowly, inevitably, towards silence. But in your breath, in your thoughts, in your dreams, the universe still shines, it still sings, and it still grows. You rest now, not with sadness, but with a soft kind of awe. You are floating in a universe that may never end, and that somehow makes every quiet moment feel even more precious. The space around you continues to stretch. The galaxies continue to drift. But in the stillness of your body, you feel something warm, a question, a quiet curiosity. If the universe will one day go dark, what does it mean to live in the time of light? Perhaps the answer begins not in the sky, but in you, in the energy that still moves within, still burns, still seeks. And so, gently, you begin to turn inward, toward the mysteries not of space, but of life, toward the tiny sparks that make you who you are. You drift now, not into the past, but into the far future. Not a year from now, not 1,000, but billions. A time so distant, the numbers lose shape. The stars still shine, but fainter. The galaxies still spin, but slower. You are floating toward a question that has no edges. Will the universe ever stop expanding? Every breath of space, every soft stretch between galaxies has brought us to this question, a question whispered across centuries, painted into the light of stars, measured in the redshift of galaxies that drift farther away each day. You remember, dark energy is not a wind. It does not blow things apart. It stretches the very space in which things rest. And the more space there is, the more stretching there can be. So, what happens when this process continues? Not just for now, but for always. This is the slow unraveling you enter now. The deep time. The dusk of everything. You pass galaxies that once blazed with stars. Now their lights fade like lanterns at the end of a long celebration. In the future, stars are born more rarely. Fuel becomes scarce. Clouds of gas, the raw material of stars, are used up or blown apart. The glittering spiral arms begin to go dark, one star at a time. Gravity tries to hold them together, but the pull of dark energy is steady, not violent, not sudden, just persistent. You drift between these galaxies, watching them fade into the distance. And you notice something. They seem lonelier, not just dimmer, but farther from one another. The space between them has grown so wide that their light barely touches each other anymore. In the far future, each galaxy becomes its own silent island. No new galaxies to greet. No starlight arriving from distant shores. The universe becomes a kind of quiet archipelago, each island adrift in a sea of darkness that only deepens. But what about your own galaxy, the Milky Way? It will not vanish suddenly. It will hold its stars close for a while, billions of years. Perhaps it will merge with its neighbor, Andromeda, spinning a new galaxy from their dance. Yet even this great swirl, once formed, will grow lonely, as all the others slip beyond reach. You may wonder. You lie still. And yet, you are moving. Not through space the way a comet flies or a leaf falls, but through something deeper. The space around you grows even as you rest, and you are carried gently within that stretch. This isn't a journey you feel with your feet. It's not measured in steps or miles. But it happens, quietly, all the same. Because you live inside the expansion, not separate from the universe's motion, but stitched into it. The breath you take now expands within a chest shaped by stars. The atoms in your lungs, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, were born in ancient fusion fires, carried by exploding stars, drifting through time until they found each other and became you. You are not beside the universe. You are of it, composed of its ingredients, moving with its rhythms, living inside its ever-growing skin. The dark energy that stretches galaxies apart doesn't move you across your bedroom. It doesn't tug at your body or pull on your hands. Your atoms are too closely held by gravity, by chemistry, by the soft cohesion of life. But even still, you live in that same fabric of space. The expansion surrounds you, beneath your bed, between the walls, in the sky above. The same field that stretches the stars also holds the quiet between your thoughts. It's easy to imagine dark energy as something far away, a force reserved for galaxies and deep time. But tonight, let yourself feel it closer. Imagine the room you're in, not as still, but as part of a breathing whole. The silence around you is expanding, and within that silence, your body floats like a boat on a rising tide. This isn't chaos. It's not sudden. It's the slowest movement imaginable, a soft, endless unfolding. You are part of a universe that doesn't need to rush. Its growth is measured in eons, its change in the drift of light. But you are fast compared to that. Your heart beats in seconds, your breath in moments, your life in a sweep of time the universe would call a flicker. And still, you feel its rhythms. You feel the wonder of existing in a moment where galaxies still shine, where light still travels, where life, somehow, is awake and aware, inside the stretch. Perhaps this is what makes life so luminous. It is a brief spark inside something vast and slow. And that spark, your spark, knows how to look up, to wonder, to ask, what am I made of? Where do I belong? How does it all hold together? And the answer, whispered gently, is this. This universe isn't just expanding outward, it's expanding inward, too. Into thought, into memory, into meaning. Your mind, so small compared to galaxies, can still imagine them, can still trace their paths, name their glow, measure their silence. And that ability to think, to feel, to wonder, is not separate from the universe. It is the universe noticing itself. A moment of awareness curled inside time, and even as galaxies drift apart, even as stars go out, you remain connected by the same quiet energy that holds space open. Not everything drifts. Some things remain. Some things deepen, like love, like memory, like this moment right now. You rest inside a body that knows how to heal, how to dream, how to care. And that, too, is a kind of expansion, not of space, but of connection. Your thoughts stretch back to childhood, forward into hope, sideways into others. A universe of experience, growing without limit, and all of it inside the same fabric that holds galaxies. So breathe now. Breathe with the stretch. Not because it moves you, but because you are part of it. Every breath a reminder that the universe grows slowly, and so can you. There is no need to rush. Not tonight. Not ever. Because you are already part of the story, already inside the unfolding, already complete even as you continue to change. And in the hush that surrounds you, in the space between this thought and the next, you feel something settle, a stillness, wide as time. And just beneath that stillness, something stirs. A question, a glow. Because if the universe stretches outward without end, what keeps it all from unraveling? What binds the stars and atoms, the galaxies and your very breath, into something that holds? Perhaps the answer waits in the smallest of things, in the quiet harmony of gravity. You are here now, on the final edge of the story. Not at the end, but at the quiet bend, where questions slow and wonder takes their place. Tonight, you rest in mystery. Not the kind that needs solving, but the kind that needs holding. You've floated through galaxies, watched them drift apart, felt the stretch of space around you. You've seen the stars fade, the future widen, the past fold softly into now. And still, after all this time, after all the careful measuring and listening and reaching, we do not know what dark energy is. It does not have a face. It does not glow. It does not knock or shout or cast a shadow. It doesn't come in particles or beams. It simply is, present, persistent, everywhere and nowhere at once. We know it by what it leaves behind, the stretch in space, the silence between galaxies, the light that redshifts as it flees. It is like a lullaby sung through the fabric of the cosmos. You cannot hear the words, but you feel the rhythm in your bones. Some say it may be a property of space itself, that space, by its very nature, wants to grow. Some say it may be a field, changing over time, like wind shifting direction in a desert with no end. Others wonder if it's something else entirely, a force not yet named, a rule not yet understood. But tonight, none of this is urgent, because mystery, too, is part of the universe. And sometimes, the most comforting truth is that we don't know everything. There's peace in not knowing, in allowing your mind to rest alongside the unknown, in recognizing that even the greatest minds do not have all the answers. Einstein, Hawking, Hubble, they too drifted in questions. The stars have never asked to be explained. They simply shine. And perhaps dark energy is the same. Not a puzzle to be solved, but a presence to be noticed. Like the way silence holds a song between its notes, or how the ocean holds its depth, heaven when the surface seems still. You lie quietly now, and you imagine dark energy not as something far away, but something soft, gentle, a hush that wraps the cosmos in a slow and steady breath. And in that breath you sleep, not to escape, but to join, to become part of this great mystery that carries stars and questions alike. The universe does not need you to solve it tonight. It only asks that you let it in. Let the not knowing be a kind of knowing. Let it rock you the way a breeze rocks a boat, unseen but certain. Let it be a lullaby with no end, just motion and meaning woven into one. You've followed light. You've listened to silence. You've measured distance and found awe. And now, you can rest. Because even without answers, you are held by space, by time, by the invisible. The galaxies will continue to drift. The stars will continue to glow. Dark energy will continue to stretch the fabric of space, softly, endlessly. And you are part of that rhythm. Your dreams stretch, too. Your breath expands with each inhale, returns with each exhale. A microcosm of the very universe you've just wandered through. So close your eyes. Let them fill with stars. Not because you understand them fully, but because you feel them deeply. And in that feeling, let the mystery cradle you. Let it whisper, not answers, but comfort. Let it remind you that the unknown is not something to fear, but something to rest within. Because some mysteries aren't meant to end. They're meant to hold. And this one, this vast invisible energy that shapes the stars and stretches space, will hold you all night long, until morning, until light, until wonder wakes again.